And welcome back to the Jamaican Geologist YouTube channel. So this channel is still in its infancy, and I wanted to take a step back and set the tone for the kind of content I want to create here. So I thought, what better way to do that than by exploring the pioneers of Jamaican geology, those who laid the foundation for everything we know about the island's geological history, and those who really set a benchmark for everyone else. So Jamaica's geological story is fascinating, but it did not unfold overnight. It was pieced together over the centuries by explorers, surveyors, and scientists, some of whom were visionaries and others who, well, got it a little bit wrong. So today, we're looking at the trailblazers who first explored Jamaica's rocks, mapped its landscapes, and built the foundation of modern geology in the island. Okay, so the story of Jamaican geology starts with Sir Henry Thomas de la Beche in the 1820s. De la Beche wasn't just any geologist, he was the first professional geological surveyor in Britain, and later became the first director of the British Geological Survey. But before all of that, he was a wealthy man who owned plantations in Jamaica. And speaking of plantations in Jamaica, I just want to quickly talk about the Halls Hall Great House. It's situated in Clarendon. There's a community called Hayes. So Hayes and Corn Peace are like the two communities which surround the Great House. But the most famous occupant is Sir Henry Thomas de la Beche, and it's so interesting that there is a plaque at the back of the house. It's not in the best condition. I took this picture from the last time I visited back in about 2021, and I thought I'd just try to read what the plaque says. It's kind of hard to read, but this is what I deciphered from my time there. It says, Hall's Hall, ancestral home of Sir Henry Thomas de la Beche, CB, FRS, 1796 to 1855, author of the first memoirs on Jamaican geology, 1825 to 27, who lived here as a child, and again in 1823 to 24. Founder and first director of the world's first geological survey, that of England and Wales, and the Museum of Practical Geology, the Mining Record Office, and the Royal School of Mines, and president of the Geological Society of London, 1847 to 49. And it further goes on to say this tablet was erected in 1958 through efforts of the Jamaica Group of Geologists Association. So a bit of history intertwined with geology in the island. So Jamaica's general history intertwined with Jamaica's geological history in terms of its research. And this is just a picture I snapped inside the house. That's his portrait that's there. So fast forward to the 1850s, we meet Lucas Barrett, one of the youngest and most ambitious geologists to work in the island. And at just 22 years old, yes, I'll say it again, 22 years old, it was not an error, he was appointed the first director of the Geological Survey of Jamaica in 1859. And unlike De la Beche, Barrett understood the importance of fossils in dating the rocks and the rock layers, which we called biostratigraphy. That's what we call it today, biostratigraphy. And he found Cretaceous fossils proving that the rocks that De la Beche thought were ancient were actually much younger. So De la Beche, what he did was try to correlate the rocks in Jamaica with those in England, and that created a lot of problems. But Barrett, through his biostratigraphy work, found out that the rocks were much younger. But unfortunately, his career was cut short when he tragically died in a diving accident while studying underwater geology in 1862. And again, showing a little bit of history here. So if you visit Port Royal, there is a commemorative plaque on one of the masonry walls near the St. Peter Anglican Church in Port Royal. So whenever you visit, you can take a look. The last time I did fieldwork in Jamaica, I snapped this picture of the plaque in memory of him. And yes, so whenever you are in Port Royal, this is something that you could check out. So after Barrett died, James Gay Sawkins took over the survey, and in 1865 he published the first full geological map of Jamaica. However, he had some serious errors like misidentifying the Eocene yellow limestone and miscorrelating it with much younger formations. But his work still helped set the stage for future geological studies. And of course, in 1865, while the Geological Survey of Jamaica was still in progress, one of the most significant uprisings in the island's history broke out, the Morant Bay Rebellion. Led by Paul Bogle, the rebellion was fueled by extreme poverty, racism, and injustices faced by the newly freed persons who were once enslaved. And the colonial government at the time responded with brutal force, killing hundreds and sentencing many to death. And the unrest had an unexpected consequence for Jamaican geology. The rebellion led to political and financial instability, and as a result, the government halted funding for the Geological Survey. So Sawkins and his team had only mapped portions of the island when their work was abruptly stopped. And had they been able to continue, they might have corrected some of their mistakes. So instead, the incomplete 1865 map remained the standard for decades despite its inaccuracies. And it wasn't until the late 19th century that new surveys attempted to refine Jamaica's geological understanding. So again, this is how, the history of Jamaica in general, impacts the history of research, geological research in Jamaica. So it's just so interesting how the two are just intertwined. I consider geology to be like a little stitch in the fabric of Jamaica's history. And then this is just an image of what the map looked like. If you look at the right side, the top right, you can see where it says geological map of Jamaica 1865, and if you look really closely you can see the names of James G. Sawkins and Charles Barrington Brown. I got this copy from a paper that was written by Professor Simon Mitchell back in 2023. But I think that paper in and of itself can be another video, because the evolution of Jamaica's geological map and the research that goes into that can be a topic for another video in the future. So enter Robert Thomas Hill, an American geologist who came to Jamaica in the late 19th century, and he took on the massive task of correcting the errors of the previous geological surveys. His 1899 work produced a far more accurate geological map and properly identified Jamaica's stratigraphy. And because of his work, he's sometimes called the father of Antillean geology. And then, of course, there were some clashes. So this is the first kind of geological cuss-out, if you will. So in the early 20th century, two geologists had very different views on Jamaica's geology. Charles Alfred Matley and Charles Taylor Tretchman. Matley believed Jamaica had a pre-Mesozoic basement, meaning some of its oldest rocks were much older than we now know them to be, and Tretchman disagreed and proposed his own theory of mountain uplift. So the academic rivalry played out in published papers for years, and well, in the end, they were both wrong. but their work contributed to the evolving understanding of Jamaica's geology still. So even though it's wrong, it's important in the context of everything. And in 1949, Jamaican geology took a big leap forward with the arrival of Professor Werner Zans, a Latvian geologist who had been displaced by World War II. He was appointed director of the Geological Survey of Jamaica, and under his leadership, the island got its first modern geological map in 1959. And I get a bit of James Bond vibes from him, his bow tie and the type of haircut. And then one of the most influential figures in Jamaican geology was Dr. Lawrence John Chubb, L.J. Chubb. He wasn't just a geologist, he was a teacher, a historian of geology, and the founder of the first geological society in Jamaica. In 1955, Chubb helped formed the Jamaican Group of Geologists Association, which later became the Geological Society of Jamaica in 1959. And his goal was to get geology taught in Jamaican high schools and to integrate it into the university curriculums and to create a space for both professionals and amateurs to engage in geology. So that's a quick look at the pioneers of Jamaican geology, from De La Beche's first maps to the work of Barrett, Sawkins, Hill, and eventually Zans and Chubb. And they all helped to create Jamaica's geological community. And these early geologists, they made mistakes, but they also laid the groundwork for everything we know about Jamaica's rocks, minerals, and geological history. So if you want to dive deeper, I've linked two great academic papers in the description, so be sure to check them out. And with that, this is the end of February's video. So I will see you in March. Until then, please take care.